What the rabbit very cleverly did was allow me to frame the questions pertaining to the aggression in my neuroplasm, for example, that was making me hot and bothered. And they made up from there um, a spiel. Now, when it came to securing proof about what Will Zellbrum said and did, they followed suit with that as well. Now, if you're like fortunate, like the adopted children of Owen Jones would be, you do grow up to ask your father, what did you do in the Kennedy assassination war? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, Dan Rather claimed in the long interval of 15 years or so between the murder of JFK and Dick Gregory's arrival on Dick Cavett with the first public showing of the Zapruder film. Back in a time where they reversed frames for Life magazine and so on. He claimed that Kennedy's head goes violently forwards. And the happy children of men like Owen Jones are told that Kennedy's head goes violently forwards because Dan Rather said so. The exact opposite of what you see in the film. And because it's troubling that it's the exact opposite of what you see in the film, people deceived themselves into believing they saw his head go violently forward. And then science came along and said, well, his head does go violently forwards, but you only see it go violently backwards because the violent forward motion is a neuromuscular recoil. So his head going violently backwards is his head going violently forwards. I'm not making this up. So when you look at the way I was lured to a place called Mount Desert Island by a Society for Human Ecology, with a girl with needle tracks on her arms and a tattoo of the Grim Reaper pointing at her vagina, associated with Will Zellbrum of the Gurdjieff Society and Michael McGarvey's friend Wattmaker is named in the letters of Gail Bursley. They were in a gang called the Gutter Snipes. Echoed by Pope Carl's mutterings. He was the leader of the Gutter Snipes who introduced King Crimson to everybody. And Wattmaker played King Crimson for me as a child, back in the days of Michael Reagan's favorite scene. You would have me saying, I have to get this back to my peers, but I have to get proof. Now that I remember Will Zell saying, what would you think of a scheme to transform the human race by injecting the blood? So I directed an interrogatory letter to him, asking him what he meant by that, and he surrounds my name with positive and negative signs. So Owen Jones is being questioned by his future adopted children at this very moment. Daddy, what did you do in the Kennedy assassination war? He said, why I'm like Saul Becker and Greta Thunberg, why I listen to the science involved. Kennedy's head goes violently forwards, but as a neuromuscular reaction, so you see it go violently backwards. And they consult George Galloway, who says, I thought you were never going to speak to me again, Owen. And Owen says, well, back me up here. What did you do in the Kennedy assassination war, George? He said, I listen to the science. So what we have is a disappearing letter. Because you see Will Zellbrum's surrounding my name with positive and negative signs and affirming that he talked about injecting people. Well, they say in some incidents there's an apostrophe In some instances, there's a question mark. He's affirming that he was interrogatorily asked to explain what he did, what he was talking about, and he surrounds my name with positive and negative signs. That's his answer. Question and answer. And George says, why Kennedy's head goes violently forwards, but you see it as going backwards because of a neuromuscular reaction, right, George? Tell me I'm wrong. So Owen Jones is happily ever after adopted children saying, my daddy got the truth about the Kennedy assassination. My daddy got the truth about the Kennedy assassination. It was Lee Harvey Oswald acting all alone.